Welcome to the TTOS Toy Train Operating Society Southern Pacific Division review of Lionel's REA Sensor Car Reefer number 7844. As you can see, I have one on the track and I'm going to walk through some basics that you know, but I think that this is a fabulous addition to any railroad that has infrared sensor tracks in the track and has older locomotives that may not have the infrared sensor. I'm going to pan the camera a little bit here. As you can see, off to the left in front of that car is the sensor track. As we operate this engine today, or this car with the engine, you'll see multiple things happen. I've actually programmed this to record and start up and work on a multiple engine. Now, with that, let's take a look at the sensor car. I'm going to scan back out here a little bit. As you can see, it's a scale-sided reefer. And on this scale-sided reefer, I have the track power cut. You're going to find at the bottom is going to be your switch to run and program. Underneath these hatches, you've got to be very, very careful underneath these hatches because they can have a tendency to break, not all the time. There is an LED located under one of the hatches. Usually it's by the handbrake side. But there have been some instances where the hinges aren't maintaining. So I went ahead and moved it versus send it all the way back to Lionel. You can move this LED to one of the other hatches. Simple fix. If you do encounter where it's really just totally needs to be replaced, Lionel will take good care of you. So the idea of this is that you're going to program this car to match an engine number on your layout. So I'm going to hook this guy back up. Now I've already programmed this car and that LED will light up. But just in case you want to see, we'll open this hatch. And I'm going to go through the motion here. So with the Lionel remote, now one other thing I learned, and that you have to be very well aware of, your remote has to be version 1.61 on the remote. Base stays at 1.60. If you don't have 1.61, easy download from Lionel, burn a chip, plug it in, update your remote. Otherwise, the car is going to reset a TMCC locomotive potentially to a legacy, and you'll be saying all sorts of names that it was never intended to hear. And honestly, once Lionel introduced this, we're good to go. Alright, so what we're going to do is once you get the switch location memorized into the car, you can hit run and program. I'm going to put the power on, and it's very simple. That I'm looking for my engine, and this particular engine is 51. This is my Western Pacific 705 that's probably on a screenshot. I'm going to hit set. The light flashes. I'm going to kill power. I'm going to bring it back on. Okay? So now, we're going to bring up this Western Pacific 705 engine. We're going to start her up. And I'm going to move her back in. Okay. The light will go on during activity, programming, and so forth. You really don't need to see the light on unless, yeah, I might use it for an alien train one day because I do have the alien zombie trains. It'd be pretty cool. So now what you want to do is hit info, and you'll see this transmit IR button. You're simply going to hit this, save infrared info to car, hit yes. Pretty cool. Now that's a legacy engine that does not have the remote. If it's a TMCC engine, you won't hear the horns and blows and everything. It's a little less dramatic. Still cool. So once you do that, I'm going to close our little hatch here. We're ready to go. Now once I start this engine, basically this is going to tell the infrared system that this engine is on this track, and it's going to emulate the infrared connector. Now you can use this to record anything to the sensor tracks. I built a recording that not only runs a legacy, but then when you do your recording, you have to do it in TMCC functions for a TMCC engine. So this is an older Western Pacific, and yes, it has another sensor car, but it's not in that chassis. Here's what I changed over. You can use any steel-sided reefer that's got the opening hatches and is approximately the same chassis, and you can swap the bodies. Now mind you, you'll probably be on your own for that. Lionel may or may not frown upon it. However, if you're like me and want several cars or several engines running, that I want different TMCC pickups in there, it's a great way to not have duplicity on the cars. Real easy, you basically pull the body shell off where the LED and then the radio transmitter screw into the little hatch hinges. You unpull those, swap everything over, and that's it. Again, that's doing it on your own. That's not necessarily approved by Lionel for their warranty purposes. If you mess it up, that's on your own. However, if you got a little bit of diligence and skill and want to play, it really looks cool. So what we're going to do here now is we're going to start up, and I'm just going to let you enjoy the show from here. So I have this inner loop program to where this engine, once I start her rolling, will do a series of horns and beeps. From there, this sensor track triggered by this sensor car is now programmed to start and run the outside loop engine. Once this engine comes around, the sensor track here is programmed to run a series of horn blows for the outside track. Now, because it's a looping recording, the engine on the outside may slow down, speed up, because it's obviously looking for a start sequence. The best way to minimize that is to use your momentum and increase the momentum on the engine. Yes, it will take longer to accelerate, but also the stops are less harsh. Gives a pretty cool effect. Now, mind you, you're going to have to listen to that along with all the Vision Line sound cars going, but I think it's a pretty good little show. So I hope everybody enjoys. This is the review of Lionel's Sensor Car. The retail price is $129.99 at your local Lionel dealer. I highly recommend this car. It basically, anything that you've got a sensor track and you've got any TMCC locomotive, and I've run an Atlas, I've run older Lionel, I've run a couple TCA editions. It basically transforms that engine into anything that you can see, including the location on your iPad. So let me get this sequence going and we'll start from there. Notice I have Wi-Fi and I have my iPad, and as these cars run through the different sensor tracks, you'll see identifier pop up. So if you look to the left, as the engine comes around on the left on the outside loop, you'll see the identifier pop up. That is not the recording, that's another sensor track telling you where the engine is at. And there you go. sensor track, you will see it pop up again. There you go. And on the inside loop, you will see that engine pop up. All in all, just a fabulous thing that adds new life and automation to these engines. I happen to love my Lion Chief Western Pacific because it lets me cheat and use 048 curves, and everybody thinks I've got wider radius curves. And since I do like the toy train style, but I still like my gadgets, it's a perfect compromise. And there's an example of the sequence starting over. Once it gets going, then it'll continue to play and trigger and then the second sequence is triggered by the second sensor track. Again, to highlight, this is TTOS Southern Pacific Division's review of the REA Lionel Sensor Car Reefer number 7844. You can find these for $129.99. Suggested list at your local hobby Lionel dealer. I want to thank everybody for their support. I'm a big fan of Sensor Track and Wi-Fi, and Lionel's support on this has been fabulous.